So, hey guys, I'm here with Michael, who is the victim's perspective, and Sheena, very vegan mom, both from YouTube. I'm sure many of you know them both. So, what I'm going to do first is ask everybody to introduce themselves. We'll go with Sheena first. Tell us about yourself, Sheena, where you're from, and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, hi everyone. So my name is Sheena, and on YouTube I'm known as Very Vegan Mom. So I started uploading videos a few months ago, mostly doing street outreach. And yeah, I've been vegan for almost 4 years. Um, Kind of what kind of made me go vegan really was, I'd lived 42 years of my life doing the same thing a lot of people do, just working in the grind and, you know, working to live, doing a lot of traveling, doing a lot of socializing, doing a lot of partying, things like that. I never really I always felt like I was looking for something. I was always looking for a sense of community, a sense of purpose. And I kind of channeled it through my travels, my socializing, a lot of partying throughout the years. And yeah, I realized, I'd made some friends, and we were kind of all interested in veganism. And on a night out, we said, right, let's start a movie group together and let's watch one documentary first night and kind of go through all of them. So we got through, I think the first one we watched was Forks Over Knives, and we did Cowspiracy, we did What the Health, and then people kept dropping off. There were about four of us, and people kept dropping off throughout. And the last one, I think I was pretty much on my own. I watched it at home. I watched Dominion on my own. And the night that was it. The day after that, I kind of became vegan straight away. And what I realized was, I think the whole time, my life leading up until that point was trying to find this community that I was so longing for, never feeling like I quite fit in. I'd go out and I'd do stuff and travel and socialize. And I would always be talking to people about serious issues like climate change, about religion, about consumerism and stuff like that. And I kind of realized once I became vegan that the community that I'd always longed for was, in the vegan community. And yeah, suddenly everything just kind of made sense. And I realized that what the animals are going through, needs to be talked about, and kind of put my whole, old life behind me. I have not had a drink or kind of been socializing or anything for 3 years now, because I really found that this is what I need to do. And it just was so like blaringly obvious to me that this was the community that I needed, and this is what I needed to be kind of working towards. So yeah, that was 4 years ago, and haven't looked back ever since.
Amazing. I can't believe you watched Dominion by yourself. That is heavy, heavy stuff. Michael, what about you? Tell us about yourself.
Yeah, I've been vegan for about 2 years. My YouTube channel is The Victim's Perspective, where I focus on reverse psychology activism, based around mainly a sign that I have at the moment, which says animals deserve to be abused, prove me wrong. And the result is a lot of non-vegan people who really have an honest intention of defending animals come up to me and almost sound like vegans themselves when they try to prove me wrong on that point. And I play devil's advocate as what I would call an honest meat eater. Bit of background for me, I watched a lot of Joey Carbstrong videos. And prior to that, I always used to ignore him because I thought veganism was some like feeble ideology that would be so easy to debunk. So one day I actually brought it upon myself to debunk that ideology, and this is where I'm at now because of that.
Amazing. My one takeaway from your videos online is your laugh when people are trying to defend animals.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy saying things like, what am I going to do about protein? Or like, we're at the top of the food chain. The fact that I get to say that in outreach is like, honestly, so fun.
Yeah, your guys' channels are both amazing, I have to say. So if anybody's watching on my channel, I highly recommend that you follow both of these guys. I guess I better quickly tell you about myself. I'm based in Northern Ireland. You might have guessed by the accent already. I do most of my activism in Belfast because it's really the only heavily populated area, and I'm trying to go onto the streets where the most people are. You guys probably know already that where the most footfall is, you have most chance of interaction. So I think all three of us do a very similar type of activism and approach to people. So I've just learned over the years what works for me, how to speak to people, how to approach people. And yeah, I just go out there and do my best with my little GoPro and my microphone, have a few conversations, and hopefully guide people in the right direction. So it's really driven from a lot of animals for me. I've always loved animals since I was a tiny little child. And I think the compassion that was inside me for animals was trained out of me by society. You know, you've both been brought up in a very similar fashion, I'm sure. So I kind of feel now that the drive comes from almost guilt for all the years that I wasn't vegan and all the harm that I did unconsciously doing harm to animals that I would have never really chosen to do if I didn't think I had to. So yeah, that's where my drive comes from. And hopefully myself and you two are doing a lot of good in the world. I hope anyway that we can help people to change and see things from a different perspective. So that's kind of my backstory.
Totally.
Yeah. I think you guys, the second question we have is how long have you been vegan and what was the catalyst? What was the actual moment? Sheena's already touched on that, but do you want to add anything to that? Or
no, that was pretty much it. You know, watching the documentaries, realizing that the amazing straight away. I was living in Melbourne. I'm in Canada now, which is where I'm from, but I was in Australia at the time, and in Melbourne, and there's such a strong kind of vegan and activist community. That was what kind of got me going straight away. You know, the minute after watching Dominion, that was it. It was just kind of, you know, head first, straight into doing activism. But the real catalyst was watching the documentaries and realizing the importance that, you know, one person can make, and just kind of using what I had learned throughout my life, talking to people, that, you know, effective communication is one of the biggest ways that we can bring about change. So just doing what I knew how to do best, that wasn't in like a pub sitting down drinking with mates, as you would know, Cliff, having the crack with people, just sitting down and chatting, but, you know, using that conversation to kind of educate people and bring about change. But yeah, that was it. From after I became vegan, from day one, just pretty much became an activist, and that was it.
Having the crack, Michael, do you know what that means?
Sorry?
Having the crack. Do you know what that means?
That's a bit of slang that's very elusive to me.
Yeah, Sheena's dropping in a little bit Irish there. So having the crack means going out, having fun and partying with your friends, and probably having a few drinks as well. So
yeah.
What about you? What was your
Thanks for clarifying that.
What was your bomb drop moment, or what was it? A gradual process, or was it just a moment of clarity that
it's hard for me to remember, especially after I watched all those like Joey Carbstrong videos. I watched like pretty much every outreacher there is. I watched like more than 100 hours of that stuff, of outreach videos, just to literally like find an excuse to continue eating animals. And I couldn't find anything, and then I ended up on a plant-based diet for about 2 weeks after watching Simnet Nutrition, who does bodybuilding, vegan bodybuilding, and he just eats whole food plant-based as much as he wants. And at the time, I was eating like a very junk food macros diet. So in the bodybuilding world, tons of protein, tons of dairy and protein shakes, and felt horrible. So I went on that plant-based diet, and then I can't remember if I watched Dominion when I did that, or I had watched Dominion up until a point of 2 weeks on a plant-based diet. It was the first lockdown in New Zealand, and I was on a night shift at work, and my fridge was empty, and all I had was slices of pork left in the fridge for me to eat. I couldn't go to the supermarket or anything, so I figured I'm plant-based. I might as well just finish this and then go shopping the next day, and that will be like my last taste of animal products or whatever. And then, yeah, when I took my first bite of the pork, I literally felt like sick to my stomach. I spat it out straight away and threw it in the bin. And it was really weird to me because I've been a chef for the past 3 years up until that point. And looking at animal products like meats never bothered me one bit. I even did butchery before, where I'd have like whole ducks that I would cut up, and it never bothered me at all. But yeah, when I took my first bite of that, literally all the images from Dominion about what happens to pigs flooded my mind, and I literally just couldn't see the same again after that. I went to the supermarket the next day, and I literally felt sick to my stomach just looking at the meat aisle. And it, while I was sick to my stomach, it really surprised me, like how I thought to myself, how could someone like me have that much of a drastic change? It was, yeah, it was really eye-opening.
Yeah, that quickly, that meat aisle thing. I didn't have that at the start when I first went vegan, but now when I go into the meat aisle or I pass someone that's cooking meat, it's just the smell and just how it looks.
The smell, just, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad. It just smells like death to me. Now, it's hard to explain to somebody who isn't vegan.
Did you find? Yeah. Did you find something similar, Sheena?
I found, I had a bunch of animal products in my fridge when I went vegan. And I think, we live closer to a grocery store, so we never really had a stock up of meats in the fridge. It was mostly dairy products. And also because my son was only 2 years old at the time, there was a lot of dairy. And I just felt so sick every time I looked at it. And it just, as you guys know, it's like this whole veil is lifted when you become vegan. You feel like you've been lied to your whole life. And I feel like I had lied to myself. I had lied to my child. I had done everything kind of wrong. And, you go through a lot of guilt straight away when you realize the mistakes that you've made. And it wasn't only you that you were affecting, but the animals and your child, But yeah, it's hard even now to go grocery shopping. You get used to that. I think that's one thing you do kind of get used to, is you have no choice sometimes. But when you go to the grocery store, there's so many animal products there. But yeah, you're so much more sensitive to the smells, and especially where you are, Michael, like the smell of barbecues, in Australia, just the smell of barbecues everywhere. And you just feel like that now, that's the most kind of disgusting smell in the world. But with many things, you just have to get past that and just carry on.
Yeah. For me, it was, so I've been watching Durian Rider. You might both know who Durian Rider is way back in the day. I was watching videos of him eating a plant-based diet. And do you remember the whole 30 bananas a day thing and all that? And on one of his videos, he mentioned a speech by Gary Yourofsky, which I clicked on in work one day about 3 o'clock in the wintertime. And I don't know if either of you have watched the speech, but it's incredibly powerful stuff. Inside 5 minutes, I was hooked on what he was saying. I was like, hang on a minute, this guy's like speaking to me. That's how I felt. Because all the stuff he was saying about animals was everything I'd believed since I was a child. But like I said to you earlier, it's kind of, I think it's trained out of you by society. Like that thing I'm always saying, normal, needed, and necessary. I believed all three of those things. I thought you had to eat animals. I found out about 19 or 20 that you didn't have to eat them, and I was like really strict vegetarian for years, but I really didn't know what vegan meant or what it was. I read a book one time about a lady who was talking about a vegan diet, and I was like, why would I eat? Why am I going to eat salads and greens for the rest of my life? I just didn't get it. I'm a lady. Why do I need to make myself miserable? That's why. And
Oh,
yeah,
that's hilarious.
when I watched the Gary Yourofsky speech, it was just like somebody dropped a nuke on me. So I came home and anything in my house, like leather jackets, shoes, food in the cupboards, everything was thrown out. And I literally went vegan overnight. Now that sounds really dramatic, but it wasn't a big step for me because I was already a really strict vegetarian. So as far as the Dominion and stuff, I had to watch that. It is screening off in Belfast here. It was the only time I've watched it. And I had to to like speak for 5 minutes afterwards, and I could hardly talk. Stuff like that I find incredibly hard to watch. It's so bad. Have any of you watched Earthlings? Have you ever seen it? You've watched it? Have you watched the whole thing?
Yeah.
I got about 10 minutes in to the part where they were disposing of dogs, gassing them, I think, in like this green bin thing, and I was like, I can't watch any more of this. It's terrible. Just having such a bad effect on me. But yeah, it was the Gary Yourofsky speech for me that was the changing moment. Okay, we'll move on to another question. So, very important one. How do you cope with being vegan in a non-vegan world? And an addendum to that question is about raising children in a non-vegan world. Sheena, you may go first with that one.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. So coping with vegan and non-vegan world, I guess the way that all of us, well, the three of us at least do it here anyway, and hope, so many other people, is really through activism, doing what you're comfortable with, doing, whatever you can that you're comfortable with, in finding community. Learning is the other thing that I love to do, just constantly, when you become vegan, it's like waking up after this dream, where you've just been asleep your whole life, and it's about learning and relearning everything, where your food comes from, learning the studies, how to interpret the studies. That's how I really cope with it. It's just constantly learning. One other thing that I did was kind of just elimination. So kind of like slowly eliminating the things in my life that weren't conducive to me growing and to me learning, spending less and less time doing the things that I found were not important to me, really helps with me to continue on this path that I know, I can be the most useful person that I can. One of the books that really helped me was Claire Mann. She's a psychologist in Australia, based in Australia. She has a book called Vistopia, and it talks through how, as vegans, we experience so much kind of pain and trauma from what we know, and the whole thing about being vegan in a non-vegan world, and what we can do to reduce those things. So, about practicing self-care, exercising for me was how I practice self-care, exercising, again, eliminating the things that aren't conducive to my purpose. And she also talks a lot about how we need to focus on effective communication to get people, which is the best way to get people out of this species' trance that they're in, because the world can be recreated. The world can be recreated if we learn how to communicate effectively. So I just really try and focus on effective communication, and it makes me feel like I'm not just sinking into a hole of getting, misanthropic, or, just being angry all the time. And yeah, I guess for children, I know somebody asked a question about children. I think it was Pure MW2 or something like that. So my son is 6 years old, and he's been vegan since he's been 2 years old. And the biggest thing I would say is just to, take it day by day, year by year. Don't bombard them with information when they're little, before they go to school. It's all within your control. What you give them, they'll take it, they'll eat it. They don't know anything different. In fact, it's quite the opposite. When we don't tell children what they're eating, that's kind of, where there is a problem. But when you're giving them healthy, nutritious, foods that aren't, involving intentional cruelty, you have nothing to hide. But as they start going to school, yes, it does become a little bit more difficult, because they're seeing what their friends eat. The most difficult probably is them being taught certain things in school, which is very much contradictory to what you're trying to teach your children. They're learning about dairy, they're learning about meat. We're lucky here in Canada that meat and dairy have been very much limited in our healthy eating guide. Dairy has been removed as a food group. So in Canada, we're a little bit lucky, but in other parts of the world, what I would say is to, inform the teachers, inform the schools about this is what veganism is, and giving them information. Really, with schools, you want to focus on the health side of it, going into the health and the environmental side of it, going into the ethical side of it. You probably won't get very far, although it's a conversation that if the school is willing to talk with you, that you could go down. But it's, about telling them about the dangers of dairy, the dangers of processed meat. Schools often have pizza days and hot dog days at school. So just kind of starting with those things, the very obvious things, the World Health Organization statements on processed meats and red meats, and informing the schools of those. And also telling them, pushing meat and dairy on kids is not in line with their teachings around sustainability. That was a big thing with children and dealing with schools, that they teach children about environmental sustainability, but it's not reflected in their food choices at school. So yeah, things like that. I know, okay, so say going to birthday parties, always asking the mother or father, what are you serving? And they tell you what you say, I'll keep it to myself. I know it's probably a surprise. What are you serving? And I will bring the vegan version. So if they're having pizza, you order the vegan pizza. Usually they'll offer to do it themselves. Again, we're very lucky here in Toronto. There's vegan donut shops and bakeries, all around the place. But if you're not, then you make it. But you always ask them, what are you making? And I'll bring the vegan version. And that really has been a game changer, because your child doesn't feel left out then.
Yeah. Very important, I guess, that they don't feel different than other kids, I think.
Yeah, and that's a big thing for kids, right? They don't want to be different. So again, don't stress about the small things. If they have something by accident, or their friend wants them to eat something, tell them it does have cow breast milk, but it's up to you. If they decide to eat it, they decide to eat it, but you don't want them to have issues about it. You don't want it to be, them to have a negative relationship with food, or a stressful relationship with food. So don't stress about the small stuff, just addressing questions as they come up. Don't overwhelm them with information. And then another big one is when other parents or children ask questions, be very honest with them. As an activist or as a vegan, you have to tell the truth, because you could, again, even with a child or with their parents, you could be one of those signs that they need, and they'll respect you more. They might not like it if you told their kid that the hot dog comes from a pig that was killed, or that they're, if they're going for ice cream that is milk that's meant for a baby cow, they might not like it, but it is the truth. And as far as I see it, I'm not here to make friends. I'm here to be, the best parent that I can be. So just being honest, and don't be afraid of kind of like what other parents think, because it's just not going to benefit anybody in the long run. Just that little bit of them getting upset with you is really not going to benefit the animals or the world, really. The other things are, there's a Vegan Publishers is the name of the company, and they are very good distributors of vegan books. There's a bunch of them from like all sorts of ages. So these are just some of them here. That's Not My Mama's Milk.
I've seen the one. I saw the one before somewhere.
These are excellent books to start off with. And then we have like other ones by a lady named Ruby Roth, who is absolutely amazing. These are a little bit more advanced for kids. Vegan is Love. It's quite explicit when it talks about animal testing and zoos and things like that. What is this one again? That's Why We Don't Eat Animals. Again, also good gifts to give to people. And then, these ones are amazing. A little bit more lighthearted, suitable for all ages, are the Tales of Vivi, the Super Vegan. This is Vivi the Super Vegan and Vivi the Super Vegan and the Planet Protector. All of them you can get on Vegan Publishers. I think it's veganpublishers.com. They'll send them kind of anywhere around the world. So
we should actually put that link in the description so that people can go and find them themselves.
Yeah, will do.
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah, and if anyone has any other questions or wants to see more videos about how to deal with kids, how to get them involved in activism, let me know. But I hope to make some videos about that in the future.
Cool. I wrote down there, by the way, when you were talking, speciesist trance. I've never heard that before, and I'm big on language and picking things up from other people. I really like that. And also I was going to say, the day they take dairy off the food chart in Northern Ireland, people will freak the out. It will be crazy. Michael, what about you? How do you cope with being vegan in a non-vegan world?
Yeah, man, there's really two ways to look at this. And I think if I were to take it on a macro level, how do I deal with the fact that we have a lot of even human atrocities in the world, even in 2022? And I think, well, whatever you think really is the reality that you live in, because I can focus, if I wanted to, I could focus all my energy on all the negative things that are in this world, or I could choose to do the opposite. And I can choose to have an influence on those factors that are either positive or negative. And yeah, I think if I want to have the longest life possible, they say that optimists are generally longer living than pessimists, right? So I think in terms of coping, definitely a big factor is, yeah, how you view the world. Yes, there is a lot of horrible things happening to animals, to everything, to the planet. But I think that focusing on that isn't productive in a way which you can derive an action from it. Instead, I'd rather think, how can I help someone? Or how can I make a positive influence on this world? Um, with a with Neil deGrasse Tyson, he's one of my idols, even though uh, he's not what too well regarded in the animal rights community at the moment because of his plant rights activism.
Yeah.
But yeah, one of his life goal, which is quite ironic to the fact that he's promoting plant life, is to leave this world in a better state that you entered it. And that's really a philosophy that I want to practice as well. And especially before discovering ethical veganism or anything like that, my goals and ambitions were to have a house, to have a car, a really fast sports car or something, and to have a hot girlfriend. That was pretty much it. But then when I discovered ethical veganism, I have so much more to live for because it's so much more than myself. I have a chance and the opportunity and the privilege to really make a difference in people's lives by helping them change, and difference, therefore, in animals' lives as well. Um, so yeah, I think focusing on the positive, and this comes from someone who is like very, very cynical. I'm very cynical and pessimistic in an optimistic kind of way. It's weird.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to know how many of those other three things do you have now?
Yeah. It's honestly at the moment for my channel, it's definitely, it's not like a list of things, but it's more based around that macro level of like, I really want to leave this world in a better state that I entered it. So I don't really have a list or anything now. Yeah, I haven't thought about that actually. Yeah, I don't have a list actually. Yeah.
That's good. For me personally, I struggle sometimes because you know that feeling you have when people are paying for animals to be harmed, and you're like, come on, everybody just please catch up here. So I think I live in a kind of I think it was Melanie Joy I heard talking once, and she said, love the individual, hate the collective. So I hate what human beings do as a collective to animals, but I definitely don't hate people as individuals. So I try to keep that in my mind all the time, that I wasn't always vegan. I mean, I am the biggest, well, I know you guys will be too, but talking personally, I love animals with all of my heart, and I always have. And I would, when I think back now and think, what the hell was I doing, paying for leather jackets and all sorts of stuff? And so that's how I look at people now. They are probably the same. They just don't have the information that I have now. That's why I try to go out and make change. And I look at it kind of the very same as you, Michael, that I try and make a difference in the world. So I feel like even if I can talk to one person and they go vegan, well, I think the average amount of animals that we just eat in a year per person in the West is I think I've seen up to 300, but I don't think that's right. I think it's 120 to 150, something like that. So if I can talk to one person and they go vegan because of what I've told them, that's 120 or 150 animals a year. That's how I see it, that don't have to suffer. So yeah, just living to try and make a change, try and use that as my motivation to try and move forward. So somebody asked me one time, what do you want on your gravestone and when you die? And it would be, he was kind to animals. That's my number one mission and goal in life.
That's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I think we're all coming from the same direction, really. The next question is, why did you decide to become an activist, and what's the drive? We're kind of covering stuff anyway before we even ask these questions, but yeah, so what was the moment you decided to become an activist, and what drives you forward and makes you want to continue doing it? Go with Sheena.
I think it was around 2018, and I'd only been vegan for, I think, maybe a month or so. And in Melbourne, in Australia, they had a big, it was called the IMARC conference, which was the International Mining and Resource Conference. So it was the biggest kind of, coal mining, that whole industry from around the world were coming into Melbourne. So I had a bit of time in the morning. My son went to daycare, and I thought, I'm going to go to this event. Being conscious about, climate change and different environmental issues. And I just couldn't believe what I saw when I went there. Hundreds of peaceful activists, or more like probably close to 1,000 peaceful activists, and probably about 200 police officers. And the heavy-handedness I saw from the police, very unjustified, and it made me really rethink what I was doing, and was I doing enough? I just saw, people being tackled to the ground for no reason, people being pepper sprayed, peaceful activists on a megaphone would just get tackled by the police. And I thought, the government and the police really don't have our best interests at heart. And it really just shocked me into this. I have to do more, because, they're not going to look out for what's best for us. They very much try and cover up industry over it's industry over our health, the health of our planet, and the health of animals and what animals go through. And they really will do anything. So I just thought I have to do more. And I thought I have to become an activist. I think I'd already been to One Cube, but then after that, I started organizing events. I think I started doing stickering, and my friend Mika, who's an amazing activist, her and I started chalking, and we just had so much fun doing that kind of thing. And then it just kind of did more and more after that. When I moved back to Canada, I still do those things, and take part more in a lot of more, organized events. But yeah, it was that mining and resource conference, and learning, really, that nothing that you thought, the police in many cases aren't here to protect us, that the governments really don't have our best interests at heart, and you have to take things into, you have to take matters into your own hands a lot of times. And that's what made me really go forward with activism.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that I think that's the same all over the world now, because there's a new crime and something bill here in the UK where they're really cracking down on activism. So you can be sent to prison for months for just making too much noise, or for even just organizing an event without even having done anything. Now, so they have all these new laws coming in where they can.
Is this regards to anything?
Anything that's seen as a protest type of stuff.
Wow.
Not what we're doing on the street, but the type of things that animal rebellion do, or marches, or even if you just turn up with a megaphone, which has always been a right here to be an activist and to protest something. They're really trying to crack down on that stuff now, and crack down on it hard. So some of the sentences for doing very minor things are actually terrible. So it's taking rights away from people to protest, which is, I think, it's very worrying, especially for, if you're talking about meet the victims and those types of things, maybe saves, it's going to affect everything. So
that's what we've seen here in Canada too, with the Bill 156.
Yeah, it's a very similar thing, Sheena. I would imagine that it'll come to all Western countries in the world, all the governments seem to be going the same way. So
yeah, very much to protect the industry. I think there's still a lot we can do. There's still so much we can do. We just have to kind of be very careful about it and not be silly about it, because there's not a whole lot we can do except for opposing the bills, which everyone, we do, and we do the petitions and stuff, but there's still so much that we can do. So I think we need to look to those things too.
Yeah. What about you, Michael? What was your moment when you decided to take up arms and become an activist?
Pretty much like because I watched like so much outreach. 2 months after I went like vegan for the animals, I just wanted to talk. I just wanted to get into it. So I looked up if there was any activism in my city, and yeah, like Auckland, in New Zealand, they had AV cubes. So I joined that, got in straight away. And then like honestly, I couldn't get enough. They did one event a month, and I was like, this is not enough. I want to do way more talking than this. So I literally like bought my own TV stand, and I would just like set it up and just talk to anyone who stopped. And I loved it at the start, but then again, just the TV stand with the TV sitting there without any context, people would look at it and just be like, what the fuck? Like, so yeah, that's when I thought about putting my sign there, animals deserve to be abused. And as soon as I did that, it's just like everyone was looking at it, everyone wanted to talk about it, and I literally had to get people to help me to have conversations, because like the first 2 days I did it with one other friend, and there would be like 6-7 people waiting around to talk, and there'd be only 2 of us, and some people would like stay for like 3-4 minutes and then just walk away. So I was really sad about that, because that could have been an impactful conversation. But yeah, in terms of like the principle of why, I never knew anything about ethical veganism. I knew one vegan that I worked with at Sky City, that apparently I mocked her about it in the same way that like, you see in the comments. So whenever I see that, I think like I was one of those people. I'm exactly the same. But yeah, like I didn't have anyone to legitimately talk to and go through with it. So I thought, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to become the person that I wish I could have talked to or looked at videos of when it comes to animal ethics.
Yeah, similar for me. Shortly after I went vegan, I was watching, Joey Carbstrong would have been first, James Asprey, that vegan couple, Paul Bashir, just anybody who was putting content out on YouTube. I was watching it and learning, and then I began to realize, I can have similar conversations. I may not be as effective or good as these people, but I can still go out and try. And I set up an AV group here, which was successful for a long time, and just went from there, just trying to make a difference. And the YouTube thing started because I think a lot of people, I just want to say this, people think when you go on YouTube, it's for notoriety or to be known or it's something like that. And it's not that at all for me. I just think like I can have one conversation with one person on the street, but when you put something in a video online, so many more people can see that video. So there's an opportunity for not just one person to see the video, to maybe, I don't have that many subs, but there's an opportunity for dozens of people to see it, or maybe a few hundred people to see it. And it only takes like you can say one thing to a person that can make them make a connection. So that's why I do the YouTube thing now and put the content out, because it's a whole world out there. You can just throw out content, and hopefully at some point I'm sure you guys are the same. There's still people commenting on videos of mine from months ago, so they must be popping up somewhere. So yeah, again, it's that thing. I'm just driven to try and make a difference and get on the street. So the next question is to tell the audience about your particular style of activism. What works for you best?
So for me, I like doing like sit down conversations. I'm going to start, I'll do some more street outreach eventually when I'm more comfortable with it, but I prefer to like have sit down conversations. So I either go straight up to people. I can show you my sign. I walk around with this sign here. It says 3 questions for animal lovers.
Get a free cookie. I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I've got these vegan, it's a brand called Sweets from the Earth, and I have a few of them with me. And I say, yeah, I either go up to them with my sign, and yeah, ask them if they want to sit down and chat about animals for the camera. And my 3 questions are, you know, are you an animal lover? And what do you think about animal abuse or people who abuse animals? And then I ask them if there are any industries where they pay for animals to be abused. Do they consume meat, dairy, eggs, and fish? So that's kind of where I'm at now. I am going to branch out and do different things, just doing kind of what I'm comfortable with. Now I've kind of stopped using the sign. I was told that I look like a homeless person approaching people, asking for money. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm just going to kind of go straight up to people. So now I just go straight up to people, because in those few seconds, I think people are already turned off of, I'm not going to talk to this lady. She just wants money. So I just go up to people and say, hi, how are you? I'm looking for people to interview. I'm talking to people about animals. Would you be interested in having a chat? And
that's amazing. You're so approachable, but and so affable that I can see how that works for you. I was going to ask you actually tonight what you do to get people to sit down and have an interview. The only person I've ever seen doing that, I think, was Earthling Ed way back in the day when he used to be at Trafalgar Square in London, and he used to just walk up to people and start a conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm not sure if I could pull that off or not, but I'm really impressed that you just walk up to people. And,
I definitely think you could do it.
Oh, I don't know.
I definitely think you could do it.
I might actually try.
Hi, how are you? I'm talking to
go
people
for it,
about
yeah.
animals. Are you an animal lover? Would you like to sit down and talk about animals? And that's it.
Yeah, I love that you're. I love that you're sitting down. It's very relaxed. It's a nice. I don't know. It's just got a nice vibe about it. So.
Oh, and the videos, yeah, like I would like to do some more stand up, and I tried just standing there with my sign, and I tried it for like 2 days. Nobody came up to me, so I'm not sure how. I don't know. It's Natalie and Juggling Vegan and Justin from Debug Your Brain. I'm not sure how they do it, just like holding up their sign and getting people to come up to them. I just got cold and I just got miserable just standing there with my sign. Nobody wanted to talk. So now I just kind of go up to people. But yeah, that's my style. How about you, Michael?
In terms of doing that kind of stuff, or
what's your style of activism?
Yeah, I've kind of explained it already, but yeah, focusing on reverse psychology. Basically, I don't want to have a argument per se with anyone. I want them basically to do all the work because I'm lazy. So I get them to prove me wrong on why animals deserve to be abused. And I just have fun almost trolling them and the fact that I play devil's advocate. I've got a friend who was like, you're not actually an animal rights activist, you're just a troll. And honestly, like that might be pretty accurate. I'm not gonna lie.
That's why I'm always laughing at the start of your videos, because you're laughing so much when you're saying them things that you can see you're holding it in. It's so funny.
You hold it in very well. I don't know how you keep a straight face.
It depends. If it's kids, I'll just go all out. I won't even care. Like there's some conversations that I know won't be the most productive, and they're almost like a guilty pleasure for me. It's just like I just want to talk crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I'm just doing whatever I can that will start a conversation with people. So I'm going to try walking up to somebody, I think, and just see if they want to have a conversation. I love the 3 questions approach because it's a fast way to get to where you need to be really fast, because you're getting the people to admit that they already love animals and they hate animal abuse. And then we're like, what about this? And it's funny to see how you can actually see some people visibly, the cogs are going inside their head. They're like, oh shit, how do I get out of this now? Because I've said this and now I'm doing this. So I love that. I took some of your idea, Michael, and I made a sign that was like, trying to think what it was. It's not animals deserve to be abused. I'm trying to think what way I worded it. And I had some funny conversations with that as well. I've got numerous signs that I use. But the 3 questions one's my main one at the minute because it seems to work so well. Because everybody wants to tell you how much they love animals. Yeah. So yeah, it's always dropping that third question on them is the good part when you see people like, oh shit. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what I do. And again, not judging people, not shouting at people. I learned a long time ago, if you point fingers at people, actually I seen on TV, a guy said it's when you accuse somebody of something, you're pointing a finger at them and you're prodding them, you're pushing them away. Whereas I mean, that's okay if you want to have an argument with somebody, but I want somebody to feel it in their heart when I'm talking to them. Mm. So there's no point in me standing there. And there are sometimes when I'm talking to people and they're saying things that I'm just like, I can't believe you're actually saying that. But what I portray to them is like, I mean, I do understand where they're coming from because we've all done it ourselves and we've all paid for it. So never be judgmental. That's my thing when you're talking to somebody, because if you judge them, you're just pushing them away. And I want them to come and join us and be vegan as well. So that's the most important thing when you're talking to anybody. So the next question is lessons you have learned and advice you'd give to anyone who's thinking about being an activist. Sheena.
Yeah, be prepared. Just like, I think, and it's funny, Debug Your Brain was saying the same thing the other day. He did a live stream, and it's like we look for any excuse, our brain looks for any excuse to kind of derail our activism efforts. So I'm not going to go out tomorrow, my phone's not charged. I'm not going to go out tomorrow, I don't have batteries for my microphone. I'm not going to go out tomorrow. You didn't pack enough food for the day. You have to stop to, get this or get that. So just be prepared so nothing kind of derails your efforts to do activism or to even record a video the next day. So, making sure your cameras are charged, you've got extra batteries. I always have I think I have them here, but, making sure you've got all your outreach material, which sometimes you just forget, I forgot to show these earlier when I was talking about how I do my, my style of outreach. But when I finish a conversation, I always give them I know everyone gives a handout, but this is just like a vegan starter kit. And I give them one of these cards, which has a bunch of all the documentaries. I don't know if you guys can see that. Has all the documentaries on them, and a bunch of other resources. But yeah, just to be prepared, have everything that you need. Another one, which I totally agree with, Debug Your Brain was saying this the other day as well. Make sure you've gone to the bathroom, or you've got your water and your food with you, because I know when you're out there for the whole day, people think you just film. You get lucky, you film one video, takes you 20 minutes and you're out of there. Whereas it could take half a day or a whole day to get that one person to sit down.
Especially if it's cold, always go to have a pee first.
Yeah, exactly. Because I don't know, you get into that frame of mind, and then you stop and you go to the bathroom and you go, I don't actually want to go back out there. You've stopped the momentum. So just be ready because you don't want anything to to set you off. And just be relaxed when you go. So I know people are making fun of me that I'm relaxed when I do activism, but I'll try to I love walking. So I'll do a 10K walk before I sit down and look for somebody to talk to. So I'll make sure I'm really relaxed. I've already done my workout, or I've exercised. For me, that's walking a lot, 10 or 15 kilometers. And so that, that's what I've learned. Just be relaxed. And advice I'd give to anyone thinking about being an activist is, join groups. Like everyone says, join AV, We the Free, the Save movement, which I won't have to tell most of you guys about. You probably already know about, where you go and bear witness to the animals before they go in, they get slaughtered. There's so many different fur protests going on right now in many different cities. It's got a lot of momentum. Even if there's not an organized groups, there's always zoos and aquariums and fairs to protest. Team up with anybody else that is that you've met. Even I'm sure you've met one or two other vegans, so just team up with them straight away. Think, how can we do something that we're comfortable with? Chalking is a great one to get to know other activists and it to be relaxed. Have some outreach material and chalk, and that's all you really need. The other thing I love doing when I'm not in when I'm, depending on the mood that you're in, is just going straight up to dog walkers and saying, "Oh, hey, oh, are you an animal lover?" Of course, they're dog walk. They have a dog, so usually they'll say yes. And then I give them this card, which again just has all the documentaries and speeches on it. It says "Justice for Animals." It was done by my friend Jenny McQueen, who's an awesome activist in Toronto. And I'll say, "Are you an animal lover?" And they'll say yes. And I'll say, "Here's some great resources for animal lovers." And I give it to them and I walk away. So I think I've covered, like, I don't know, many hundreds of dog walkers in the
That's
city.
a great idea.
And
that's really cool.
just little things. And I'm thinking about which other activists can do as well, is simple things like wearing a sign while you're walking. I'm going to cover my face. It's getting super cold here in Toronto. I'm going to put like my balaclava on and just wear a sign with "Watch Dominion." And I figure after walking by people a few times on my normal route, somebody might watch it. It's no difference to me if I'm wearing a sign or not. And I'm kind of hiding my face because, sometimes you run into other parents and things like that. So so those are the things I would say. Join the groups and then do the little things that you can yourself, like talking and outreaching dog walkers are, I think, some of the easiest things you can do. How about you, Michael?
Starting activism, I would say definitely start small and start within the group. Specific to outreach, I think the biggest mistake that I made at the start was putting a massive weight on my shoulders, thinking like, shit, I have to convince this person to go vegan, otherwise I've failed the outreach conversation. And that's totally not true. Outreach is all about being there for the people who are ready to change. And you don't have any control over whether that person is ready or not. You can control what you say, but you cannot control their state of mind. So I think the first bit of advice that I give to people who are starting outreach specifically is just listen to people. Just ask them what they think and just listen. And don't put any pressure on yourself to say the right things or whatever like that. Genuinely learn to listen and engage and get people to share what they feel and what they think. I think that's a great first step. And after that, it gets really easy because once you learn to listen, then you can learn to take what they've said and really put it in a place where you have a great conversation and a great honest conversation, especially because you've let the other person have a space to speak. They will do the same for you.
Yeah, that's good advice.
Yeah, great advice.
I guess for me, it would be most importantly, I think, know the answers to the questions and the stuff that people are going to say to you. So if anybody hasn't seen 30 Day, have you seen 30 Days, 30 Excuses? It was a series. It was done by Earthling Ed. It's also available in an ebook form. It goes through every argument that people use against you. So that's a great resource. So, I mean, you don't need to know everything. You don't need to be a nutritionist and you don't need to know everything about climate change and all these things. But if you can learn the answers to, like, there's probably 30 things that come up all the time, but you can narrow that down to like 10 really popular things that people say all the time when you're speaking to them. So learn those things. And yeah, again, agreeing with you, Michael. I'm trying to think who I learned this from. I heard somebody explain it one time that you're not there to make people go vegan on the spot. And I say that in my videos, and a couple of people have said, "Why do you say that?" I think it's unrealistic to expect people just to go vegan on the spot. So the way it was described to me was like a point system from 0 to 100. So everybody you meet is at a certain point on that scale. So they might be a vegetarian, so they're like 50 to 60. It's your job to give them 10 or 20 points more. When they get to 100, they're vegan. So I see it as my job to give them as much information as I can without overloading them or overdoing it. And push them a little bit along the way. And then they might go home and watch Gary Ruffsky's speech, or they might watch Dominion, or they might watch Cowspiracy, and that's another 10 or 15 points. So everybody's at a different point in their journey, and you tend to talk to different people in different ways. I mean, there may be a farmer who does not care. I mean, there are people, not necessarily farmers, but there's many people we meet just do not care. I tend to not spend a lot of time with those people because it just turns into an argument. But the more people care and the further along they are the journey, the more time I'll spend with them to give them that wee bit of push. So yeah, we're not trying to make vegans well, we are trying to make vegans on the spot, but it's unrealistic. So just see it as your job to give them some more points on their journey, some more breadcrumbs that lay a trail to where we eventually want them to be. So that would be my best advice.
I am thinking of playing a bit of devil's advocate. Do you think there are some people, you touched on it a little bit, but do you think there are some people who have a limit to those points? Obviously, 100 points is ethical vegan lifestyle, but do you think people just can't get to that 100 points of a ethical vegan lifestyle?
Yeah, I mean, not everybody's going to get it for a start. There's some people who will never get it. My hope is that enough people go vegan that it becomes like how would you say it, socially unacceptable to eat meat. In the same way that smoking is now kind of socially unacceptable. And I don't think we're ever going to get in a place in my lifetime, at least, where the whole world's vegan and animals are not being exploited. But I can see it getting to a place where it's socially unacceptable to a level where it's frowned upon, because so many people are vegan, and that's going to make more and more people think, well, why are so many people vegan? But there are definitely people who do not care. And that's another piece of advice I would have. I argued one day a long time ago on a freezing cold winter's day with a chicken farmer for an hour and a half, an hour and 40 minutes. The cube had ended, everybody gone home, and I was still standing arguing with this guy, trying to win points and score against him. And he just wasn't getting it. And on the way home that day, I decided I will never do that again. Why would I waste my time arguing with somebody who doesn't get it, when I could use the same time to speak to 3 people who actually genuinely understand it?
That's exactly why I asked you that. Because we've all been there, right? We've all been there.
Kind of pointless when there are some people who don't care about animals and will never care about animals. They don't even care about human beings. So I'm not there to argue with people. It's a waste of time. Absolute waste of time, and it's terribly frustrating. And you maybe feel good in the moment saying something smart or clever that they haven't thought of before, but you just go home feeling frustrated. Whereas if you speak to somebody that gets it, you guys know that if you speak to somebody that really gets it, it really lifts your spirits that you've possibly made a change there. So
and we have as activists, we have to protect ourselves a little bit, and also not spend so much time with these people that we know that they just don't get it. Time is valuable, and you can't have the banging your head against the wall conversations, but saying that as well, when you say there's some people that just don't care, but like you said, as it becomes socially acceptable, those people that we think just don't care, once it becomes socially acceptable, they will start caring. And I think that I do believe that'll happen, because it's just so out of their world to think that it could be any different right now. But once it becomes socially acceptable, even those people will come around.
I can argue with the best of them if I put my mind to it. And it may make better YouTube content, but like Sheena said, I feel like my time is valuable. I don't have all day. I want to pick the people who get it, and not the people that are just there to argue with me. So
and absolutely. I think one really important thing that I learned, and sorry, I'm going to keep adding into this, but is people don't remember the conversation. They don't remember the points that were made. They just remember how you made them feel. And I think all of us would be on the same page that way. Although I'm all for the Joey Carbstrong type of activism. He's what really, once I had watched all the films, when I started watching his videos, that really solidified how I felt about it. And me wanting to become an activist was purely because of him, and of course Earthling Ed as well. But his style of activism really resonated with me. But at the same time, I do think people will remember how you made them feel as well, more than anything else.
Can I just say I massively respect Joey, because he's absolutely relentless, and I've been following him for years, and I don't think he's ever he's just non-stop out there, really, really, really driven, and I respect that so much in him. So
getting even more so now, he's just on top of everything. Love it.
He's a legend. The next one is top tip for anybody who wants to get into activism, for recording, editing equipment they use. What's your top tip for anybody wanting to get started? Go with Sheena first.
I just I use DaVinci Resolve, the free version, for editing. I use Canva for my thumbnails, which I love. And it's not easy, it's not fun. I did work with an editor for a while, but it's a lot of work doing that as well, because they're not mind readers. You have, the vision that you want something to be, and it ends up being a lot of time, a lot of back and forth. But saying that, if it's going to save you, if it's the defining point or the deciding point between you not doing activism and doing it, do whatever you can that helps you to be able to just get out there and do activism. I know for me, I don't have a lot of capacity for technology or for really staring at the screen at all. I find like it really brings my mental health down. So I did work with an editor for a little bit. It's still, kind of, it does save me a little bit of time, but I'm back to, doing my own videos. So yeah, DaVinci Resolve I found was easier. I tried to do some other ones and it just too much for me. And yeah, if anyone's not on Canva, I find Canva is really good for thumbnails and learning, doing all the free. There's a bunch of, I know I did the YouTube DaVinci Resolve online YouTube courses, and they were really good. And yeah, you don't need fancy equipment or anything. I just used this phone that was my dad's phone. It's a Samsung Galaxy phone, and I use this microphone, which is a Zoom H1, which I got. There's an H1N, which is good, but yeah, it's the passing the back and forth. I found this secondhand on Facebook Marketplace for $10, so wow. That's it really. I use, and then I have a cheap tripod. It was steel. I have a cheap tripod that was my mom's. She's a musician, so she had this tripod, and yeah, just you go with what you have. Do just the things that you're comfortable with. Try and find things that aren't too advanced for you, because then that'll just be another like reason that you're not going to go out there and do it. Yeah, so use your phone and microphones. I think the boys have the Rode microphones, which I do want to get. Where you clip one onto you, and there's a transmitter and then two receivers. But yeah, just in time, just start doing what you're comfortable with, and just carry on from there.
Living proof right there that anybody can do it. You're using a microphone you picked up for $10, a second-hand phone, and a handmade sign. Yeah. And your videos are great. So, what about you, Michael?
That's great. Yeah, I invested a lot into buying like the elaborate equipment, but like I could have done it without it as well. I think if you're thinking about doing activism and you've been thinking for a while, that's enough thinking. Just go and do it. But yeah, like just go and do it, start small and treat it like an experiment, because you may have this like vision for yourself as to what you want to get to, the level of production quality or whatever. Man, if I look at my videos from long time ago, I just like, oh my God, I can't believe people are watching that, but people still watch it and that's fine. But like, you can't get to like 100% from day one. And if you expect to be at 100% from day one, then you will never start. And there's a lot of learning in terms of like everything along the way, not even equipment, but just learning things, basic like communication and stuff like that. There's so much you have to learn that if you were to set this high standard for yourself, you'd have to study almost like at a university level for years before you could get to that. Or you could start today and make very small incremental steps on all of those aspects and really grow as a person as a result.
Yeah. Makes sense. For me, editing is the hard part. So if I can make that easier, that makes a big difference to me, which means sound quality. You guys will know this, but if you can make a video clearly heard what the other person is saying, it means you don't have to subtitle it. Well, sometimes I do anyway because of people's accents here. But subtitling takes so much damn time. I don't know if have you done it, Sheena? Michael, I know you've done it in your videos. Like it's literally line by line, and you have to listen to what the people say, and then you type it. And sometimes they say a lot, and you're typing like one sentence at a time, and it literally hours of work. So sound quality is very important, I would say. So I use these. I know Michael uses them well. Little Rode wireless transmitter and a receiver, which goes straight into. I'm just using a little GoPro camera now. Just put those straight in, set it up somewhere, and film by myself. I use a Photor, which is the same as Canva for my thumbnails, and I use Filmora 11, which I paid for. It was like £27, which is probably like $30 or $40 for a year. And it's a really simple way of editing videos. Like everything's just a touch of a button rather than all this technical stuff that I don't even understand. And I'm not highly technical, so like Michael said, I've just learned as I go along. Like I was thinking when you said that, even on YouTube, when I got when you get the 500 subs, you get the community thing. I got an email about it, and I was like, I don't even know what that is. It took me months to figure out. It just meant that you could do an ordinary post. So yeah, just learning in little increments as you go along, and eventually things fall into place. But at the start, you're going to make mistakes, and I've gone out days and recorded 2 or 3 great videos and got home and I've got no sound at all, or it's like focus, or
it's heartbreaking.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, I've actually felt like crying a couple of times. I've stood out in the cold for hours and realized my microphones were plugged in correctly or something. So yeah, just learn as you go.
But that's
learn as you go.
That's all part of the process, eh?
Yeah. Next one's a really important question.
Cliff, don't you think if us old ones can do it, surely people can do it, right? To learn it now, it's hard.
Yeah, for sure.
But you have to just do it as you go. Like take each little bit by little bit, and then just do it as you go. And I'm like, if we could do it, anyone can do it.
Yeah, I was saying to you guys earlier that it's for me, it's a need to know basis. So if I need to learn how to do something, I'll learn it. But it doesn't. I mean, when I went to school, there were no computers. They weren't a thing. So I have no computer know-how whatsoever. So I just learn as I go. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. The next one, really important, vitally important. Let's put it all together. So mental health, time management, managing stress, downtime, and I want to read the question that somebody actually asked, because it's a really good way of putting it. How do you manage burnout or periods of despair or dark days in terms of activism, all that stuff? How do you cope with that? Who wants to go first? Do you want to do it, Sheena?
Go ahead, Sheena.
Yeah, okay, so I think I touched on it before, just making sure I get a good night's sleep, trying to get 8 hours sleep, at least 7 hours sleep, and getting up in the morning, getting out within the first 20 minutes of the day. For me, those things are a lifesaver. Getting enough sunlight. For me, it's walking. That's how I work on my mental health. That's how I kind of stay positive. And then I guess the next thing really with the community, I find that, if I haven't been to an event in a while, if things at home are just getting, too busy, or, my son keeps me very, very busy, I find that all I need to do is go out and do an action, do an event. There's a select few people in the activist community that I just, really are there, just you find those people within the community, spend some time with them. And I feel like that is the best for your mental health, finding the community of people around you, of like-minded people. Again, doing a lot of exercise, and trying not to, and switching off from technology. People say it, and I know it sounds cliche, but switching off from technology at least 2 hours before bedtime, so my mind isn't kind of working overtime. Even if we're not on technology, you guys I know are the same, that we think about what animals go through for most of the day. But just switching off of technology is kind of one of the best things I found to help reduce that, and lets me actually just have a clear head when I go to bed. So yeah, those are the things I do, but those, I know they're very cliche, but they seem to work for me.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Unplug from the matrix sometimes, I think, is good advice for absolutely anybody. What about you, Michael?
Yeah, I totally agree with what Sheena said, and I think in terms of what we're doing, we're trying to help other people, right? And if your cup is empty, you have nothing to pour out for other people, so you have to make sure your cup is full in the first place. So I do pretty much the same thing. I exercise for 2 hours as soon as I wake up. I have a morning routine, a night routine that I follow, and if I don't follow those, I don't feel as my best self, and if I'm not my best self, then I can't go out there and help other people. So yeah, I think taking care of yourself is your first priority if you want to help others. It's really weird how that works. But in terms of mental health, and especially like things like motivation and drive to do activism, I think there is naturally going to be times where you feel less inclined and more inclined to do those things. And it's about one understanding what those feelings mean, because those feelings can also happen on a cycle. Because if you think in the same way of happiness, if you feel happy all the time, every single day, for the month, for the year, there's something wrong, because that just doesn't exist. And the same with motivation. If you're motivated every day, blah blah blah, it just doesn't happen like that. There's going to be times where you feel demotivated or sad about these things. And I think understanding where those feelings are coming from is a great way to process it, and just think, why do I feel like nothing is changing? Why is this thought brought up in my imagination all of a sudden? Oh, people don't care about activism. Oh, me having all these conversations in the past month has made no change. Why am I automatically coming up with these thoughts? Just literally thinking about that helps you process it, and then you can determine maybe you haven't really been taking care of yourself because you're so focused on trying to get other people to change that you haven't taken care of yourself in that time. And these thoughts are a way for you to process that, and a way for you to realize, like, I need to take a bit of a break, or I need to schedule in some time for myself. So yeah, I think a bit of self-reflection is definitely it. But at the same time, I feel like that sometimes. I feel like I can't make a difference, but that's because I haven't, yeah, like I said, made time for myself or anything like that. So yeah, just just having a bit of self-awareness, and that's a skill. It's definitely a skill. It's not just some mindset that you can switch on and off. It's something that you have to work on in all aspects of your life until you die, basically.
Yeah. This is a strange one for me, Michael. It was you kind of brought the mental health thing up, and I don't know how I feel about it. I would say it's a weak spot for me. I've developed this thing where if things hurt me too much, it's kind of hard to explain. I switch off, like I literally switch my heart off. But that's not a great way of coping with things. So I don't really have a mechanism in place where I look after my mental health. I guess my own advice for people would be to try and not carry stuff with you. So if you have a conversation with somebody and you think it's not successful, or don't overthink it, or don't expect or don't go home thinking, did I make that person go vegan? What are they going to be doing when they go home? I have no effect on the outcome. Once that person walks away from me in the street, I can do nothing other than I've given them a card, I've given them some information. So I am disassociated from the outcome and from what happens from that point forward. That's number one. And number two, I was thinking about this earlier. So one of the pig gas chambers is actually, so if you go down to the bottom of the road I live on and go out about a mile and a half, it's like really close by, but there's a roundabout at the bottom of my road. So I see the trucks every single day in life. I see them, particularly in the morning times, 3 or 4 every morning, about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And a lot of times when I see them, even now, it affects me to a level where I just feel my whole energy. You know that feeling when you see something really horrific like that. So I try to not carry it with me. I mean, I feel absolutely terrible for the poor animals that are on the back of those trucks. There's nothing I can do I mean, that place is fences that are 12 foot high, there's cameras everywhere. So, I mean, what can I do? Go and break in and at best, maybe take one pig away to safety. So realistically, there's nothing you can do. So I try not to carry that with me and tell myself that at least I know when I do my activism, I'm doing the very best that I can. You know, maybe not for those ones. God rest their souls. They're gone. But maybe in the future, I'm making a difference somehow. And try not to feel that enormous feeling of. I mean, you guys are bound to feel it too. You feel guilt and you feel sadness and all sorts of stuff. So trying to not carry it with me, I think, is the best piece of advice that I could give anybody. So
Yeah.
We'll go away from the heavy stuff now. We're on to what I wrote down as a quick fire round. So
I will actually say one quick thing about that, which
course.
also Debug Your Brain did a live stream the other day, and he talked a little bit about it too, was cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT therapy. You know, a lot of us we're not in the position where we can go and afford therapy or talking to people or, you know, going from massage to debrief or to relax, or after we have some very confronting conversations, or when we're going to vigils and stuff like that, you know. And he said it's something that's really, really helped him to work with his own mind and do whatever he can do on his own to help work through those feelings of despair and anxiety and stuff. I don't know enough about it, but yeah, he said that's something that he finds really helps him.
Okay, that's good advice. So
yeah, shall we move on? So it's
quick fire round.
Yeah.
So somebody asked, what was your favorite or funniest comment that somebody has said to you when you were doing outreach?
All right, should we bomb through all these questions actually now? Just we're a little bit worried about time. Shall I just do all of them and then Michael does all of them and then
that's a good idea. Yeah, so do that one. Yeah.
Just so we don't waste any more time. Not waste time. This has been awesome, but I'm afraid the kid's going to come screaming in a second. So okay, so I think it's not really a funny question, but I know my favorite one was when I was doing a cube, and it was just here in Toronto, and this man just walked by and he just looked very serious and he was like, "This is very bad," and walks away. And I was like, "It's bad that we're here, because that's what most people say. You shouldn't be here. You should be showing people this. I don't know what you mean," but I figured that was it. And then he walked away, and then he came back like 20, 30 minutes later, and he stopped and stared at the screen. And I thought, okay, now he's stopping for 30 seconds. So I went up to him and I said, "Oh, have you ever seen footage like this before?" You know, the normal things that we ask people in cubes. And he just didn't acknowledge me, and he kept looking at the screen. And then he said very quietly, he said, "I told my mother when I was 5 or 6 years old that I didn't want to eat animals, and she never listened to me." And he looked very, very serious. And then he started crying, and I didn't know what to say. And I had the card in my hand. He took the card, he hugged me, and then he just left. And it was just an experience that really kind of moved me, because he was so taken aback by it that he said, "I just remembered when I was 5 or 6 years old, I told my mother I didn't want to eat animals, but she never listened." And it was like he had this reminder of it. And yeah, it was a very strange experience, but yeah, that was I think the one that happened to me that moved me the most. Okay, favorite meal. Sorry, what were we
favorite vegan food, main and dessert is the second one.
Yeah, so my favorite. Okay, so I love Buddha bowls. So my favorite is Mexican Buddha bowl. So like a bunch of like crunchy romaine lettuce on the bottom, like kind of cumin and garlic powder, seasoned black beans, a bit of salt, roasted sweet potato, cashew cream, like pico de gallo, which is like a less gooey version, like a more fresh version of a salsa. So pico de gallo, guacamole, crunched tortilla tips on top with lime juice and jalapenos, cilantro. So like Mexican Buddha bowl. That's I love that. I could eat that
making
every
me
day.
hungry.
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
So good. So good. It's like a spicy cashew cream. Oh man, it's so good. And dessert would be like, I like raw desserts, but I'm weird that way. So I like raw chocolate brownies or something like that. Something like bitter, more like bitter than sweet. I think the next question was, what am I thankful for? I'm thankful for the activist community in Toronto. I'm thankful for the activist community online. I'm thankful for you guys and all the amazing activists that are online, just doing the best that they can for the animals. It just makes me so happy. I'm thankful to channels like Vegan Gaze, Ellie, who's just been, created this amazing community for people that are doing outreach like us to kind of come together. And yeah, just thankful for my family, although they don't agree entirely with what I'm doing, they're still supportive. And yeah, so those are the things I'm thankful for, and I'm not going to cry, and I didn't. So the next one is, holiday season, what will be on your table. So in Canada, we have Sol brand, SOL brand turkey, which is so good. So you get this like turkey roulade, and it's got like stuffing in it, and then we'll make stuffing on the side. So this is my mom, myself, my partner, my son, my sister that live here in Toronto, and yeah, stuffing, cranberry sauce, and then we usually make a raspberry crumble, which is an amazing recipe from Forks Over Knives. A really kind of healthy.
I love raspberries. I love raspberry anything.
I'll send you the recipe for this.
Yeah,
the Forks Over Knives website. Amazing, healthy, and just and also it's got like lots of maple and lots of almond butter in it, and we'll have it with banana and ice cream on the side. And I'll send you both the recipe, and that's it.
Sounds amazing. Michael, you go. Favorite or funniest comment by someone you outreached?
Oh my god. Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was just like, it was the funniest thing. These two kids came up to my sign because it says like animals deserve to be abused, right? Their faces, like, they were just like, what? Like, they were just looking, because I was kind of in the background, and they were just looking at the TV stand with the sign, and they were just like, who the hell has this up here? And I walked up to them in my usual manner. I was just like, don't you guys agree with the sign? Come on. And they're like, what's wrong with you? And the guy, like, I was talking, there was two of them, so I was talking to the girl, and the guy steps away for a minute, and he comes back, and he's like, literally just about to dial like a health line, like a mental illness helpline. He's like, bro, you need help. You need help. And I'm like, no. I flipped the script on them. And then it was the funniest thing. After I told him what it was about, he's like, oh, and he's like, he gave me money. He's like, oh, I want to like donate to you.
Oh,
You made a video of that. I'm sure I've seen that on one of your videos.
Yeah, I explained it in the speech I did at Vegan Vibes, but yeah, it was the funniest thing I've ever encountered. Yeah.
so good.
And the next one
What
was
was the
your
next?
favorite vegan food, main and dessert.
Man, they're probably the first. My favorite vegan restaurant in Auckland is a place called Cuckoo, and because I was chef, it's a Thai place, and because I was a chef, I really appreciated, I guess, like the texture and taste of meat, and they like really recreated it. And this is actually a funny story. I took my parents out there one time, and they did a pork belly, and my dad had like one bite of it, and even I was scared. He was like, "That's not vegan," and because I was the first one to eat it, and I literally like, it was the weirdest experience. I had like chills down my spine because I was like, oh my god, like it says it's like 100% vegan eatery at the front, and I'm like, oh my god, did I just buy like pork belly? It was insane. But after I got over that, I guess realization, like I was able to enjoy it a lot. So yeah. Thai place called Cuckoo in Auckland. Basically
That's
like
awesome.
pork belly dish, stir fry, beautiful. And dessert, really simple, mochi ice cream. Mochi is like this Japanese rice cake thing, and then you wrap that in ice cream. So beautiful.
Sounds good. Sounds good. What are you thankful for?
Yeah, so funny one. Yeah, so like being grateful is part of my morning routine. So at the end of my like brain dump at the night, I'll list a whole bunch of stuff. And last night I flushed the toilet, and that was literally my thankfulness. Because if you imagine back in the 1500s, they would have to deal with that or like chuck it out in the street. Like plumbing, man, it's beautiful.
I love it.
But yeah, but in a more holistic sense, especially to do with animal rights, I'm extremely grateful that I have something beyond myself to work for and something to live for. And my mother gave me a great gift of empathy, and that helped me align to my purpose in life. And I think that's the greatest gift I could like ever ask for.
That's beautiful. I love it. And the last one was, are you celebrating the holiday season? And if so, what will be on your table?
Yeah, so we're going on a family trip to Thailand at the end of the year with my family. So I'm not sure yet, but it's definitely going to be vegan. I'm going to take them out to some really nice vegan place in Thailand. So if you guys know, drop any recommendations down in the comments. Yeah.
That sounds amazing. I'll go quickly with mine. So, favorite or funniest comment? I have two. One's a real fast one. A lady told me one day that we'd eaten all the dinosaurs, so we should just continue to eat all the animals as well. Yeah, she said, but sure we ate all the dinosaurs, as if that was like okay. We missed each other by a few million years,
Oh
but yeah.
my God.
And the avocado guy, I don't know if you guys
How
seen
did
the
you
video.
react to that?
I was like taken aback, like, are there people on this planet that think dinosaurs and human beings lived at the same time? So that was a good one. And the avocado guy, when I asked him the three questions, when I hit him with the last one, he said he went immediately. He must have read or seen something about avocados. And he said, do you know how much energy it takes to grow an avocado? And before I even answered, he said, it takes more energy to grow an avocado than it does to drive a car for a year. I was like, okay. So I don't know where he heard or what he was.
It doesn't even need water.
Yeah. And then he stormed off in a huff. Like, it was so funny. But yeah, the dinosaur probably was the funniest one. Favorite vegan food? Main would definitely be arrabbiata pasta. I don't know if you've had it. It's like spicy Italian pasta with tomato sauce and garlic and peppers in it. It's absolutely beautiful. Dessert. I'm not really a dessert type of person. I love fruit. I love all fruit. So I'd probably go for a fruit cocktail or something like that. I love pineapples. I love mangoes. I love raspberries. I love melon. I love grapes. I love all that stuff. So, like, if you push me, I'd probably say ice cream, but definitely fruit would be my preferred option. What am I thankful for? I guess something similar to you guys. I'm thankful that I have the ability to. When I was young, something really traumatic happened to me. I seen guys older than me being very bad to an animal in front of me. They kicked a small animal to death, and I was only a small kid, and it really deeply affected me. And it's stayed with me until this day that I felt a tremendous guilt about it. I was only 5 years old and I couldn't do anything, but I still felt tremendously guilty that I just had to stand there and watch these guys do something horrendously cruel. So I'm thankful now that now I'm a grown adult that I can go out and I can talk to people. And yeah, I mean, I haven't taken up arms and I'm not actually fighting with people, but I feel like I'm fighting the system and fighting the industries by going out there and using my voice to speak for a greater good. And I'm actually quite proud of myself that I go out there and get it done. And not in a egotistical way and not in a big headed way, but I just feel like I have this purpose in life and I go out there and I do it and hopefully it makes a difference in some way. So that would be what I'm thankful for. What's the next one? Will I be celebrating the holiday season? And if so, what will be on your table? Yeah, probably something probably similar to you, Sheena. Tofurkey. I don't know if you guys have ever had that. So it's like mock turkey with stuffing in the middle. It's really, really good. And everything, if anybody's watching this that isn't vegan, I will be having everything that you have, just a cruelty-free version of it, and it will taste absolutely amazing, if not better. So yeah, if you're watching and you're wondering what vegans eat for Christmas, we eat exactly the same things that you eat. We just eat the vegan version of it. So that would be my answers, and I think that's the end of the podcast. Do you guys have anything to say before we go? Do you want to give a final comment to anybody who's watching, or a shout out, or what about you, Shane?
First of all, I just want to thank you for putting this all together. I wouldn't have the space to do it myself, but yeah, you've really made a nice space for us to really just discuss all this together as small creators in the outreach community. So thank you so much, man.
It's really nice to connect with two people who, I mean, I genuinely respect you guys. I watch all of your videos, and you're just, I mean, I feel when I'm watching you guys, like, you're so articulate and kind and empathetic and compassionate to people, and it's just great to see people out there doing what you guys do, and you really are making a difference. So I want to thank you guys, and I also want to thank the people who watch my channel, who share my videos, who sub. Whatever you do in any small way whatsoever to help animals, I really appreciate anybody who does anything for the movement in that way. What about you, Sheena?
Yeah, just thank you to both of you. I watched both of your channels before I started my channel for a couple of years. Both of you juggling vegan, debug your brain, and something about all of yous. I felt we're all similar in so many kind of ways, and I thought these guys are doing it, and I know I could do it too. And it was so much of what you said really resonated with me. The way you spoke to people, and there's a lot of different type of activists out there that really will resonate with different people, and both of your channels and your style really resonated with me. And if it hadn't have been for you guys doing the type of outreach that you do, I don't know if I would have had the courage to do it, because I thought, well, maybe it's just me that does it this way. Maybe, I wouldn't have had the courage to do it for sure if I hadn't have seen your guys' channel and doing it in a similar kind of way. Yeah, and Cliff, thank you so much for putting this together. I know
I literally did
not
not.
something I would have thought of.
I sent a couple of emails, guys. It was nothing. I just want to add to that when I go out and do activism, Ireland can be a cold, wet place, and there are days I'm standing on the street and you can feel quite isolated when you're standing there with a random sign doing stuff. There's something empowering about it as well, but it's good to know that there are people in the world. And I know we're in 3 different corners of the world, really, but it's good to know that there are other people out there doing the same thing. And I take something from that I know there are other people that feel that I'm doing the same as me. So yeah, it helps me that your channels are out there too, and you guys are out there doing the same work that I'm doing. It's great. It really is. It's empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys so much.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much.
A little wrap.